My husband asked me for a divorce. I agreed instantly. He didn't expect that. What he really didn't expect was what I'd written on page 2 of the settlement agreement I'd been preparing for the last 3 months. The rain was hammering against our floor-to-ceiling windows in our Seattle penthouse when David walked through the door that Thursday evening. I was sitting on our cream-colored sofa, a glass of Merlot in my hand, watching the city lights blur through the water streaming down the glass. He didn't kiss me hello. He hadn't in months. "Claire, we need to talk," he said, loosening his tie. His voice had that practiced, lawyer-perfect tone he used when delivering bad news to clients. I took a sip of wine, savoring the bitter taste. "Go ahead." He sat down across from me, not beside me. That should have hurt, but I'd stopped feeling pain about 6 weeks ago. That's when numbness replaced the agony. "I think we've grown apart," he started, his hazel eyes not quite meeting mine. "We want different things now. You're always working late, I'm always at the firm. We barely see each other anymore." I nodded slowly, setting my wine glass down on the marble coffee table with a soft click that seemed deafening in the silence. "I think it's time we consider going our separate ways," he continued, gaining confidence from my calm demeanor. "A divorce. We can do this amicably like adults. No drama, no mess." The irony of him saying no drama almost made me laugh. If only he knew what I knew. "Okay," I said simply. His carefully rehearsed speech died on his lips. "What?" I said okay. "I agree. Let's get divorced." David blinked, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. This clearly wasn't the script he'd prepared for. He probably expected tears, begging, maybe some thrown dishes. He'd underestimated me. Again. You agree?" Just like that. I stood up, walked to my home office, and returned with a manila folder. My hands were steady as I placed it on the coffee table between us. "I had my lawyer drop the papers 3 weeks ago. Everything's ready. You just need to sign." Color drained from his face. "You what? 3 weeks ago? But I just decided tonight?" I finished for him, allowing myself a small smile. "No, David. You decided months ago. Around the same time you started sleeping with Melissa." The name hung in the air between us like a guillotine blade. His face went from pale to crimson in seconds. I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered, but his voice cracked. Lawyer or not, he was a terrible liar when cornered. "The Peninsula Hotel, room 847, every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 4 months," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Dinner at Canlis on your supposed client meetings. The weekend trip to Vancouver you said was a legal conference." Should I go on? David's hands were shaking now. "Claire, listen, I can explain." "I don't want explanations," I cut him off. "I want your signature. Page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. Initial here, here, and here." He reached for the folder with trembling fingers, pulled out the papers, and started reading. Page 1 was standard dissolution of marriage, citing irreconcilable differences. He scanned it quickly, probably relieved I wasn't citing adultery publicly. He picked up the pen I'd placed next to the folder. "This seems fair. The house goes to you since your parents helped with the down payment. We split the investment accounts 50-50. I keep my 401k, you keep yours." "Keep reading," I said softly. He turned to page 2. I watched his face as he read. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. His eyes widened. His jaw went slack. The pen fell from his fingers and clattered onto the marble table. "What the hell is this?" His voice was barely a whisper. "That," I said, picking up my wineglass again, "is accountability. Page 2 wasn't about asset division. Page 2 was about the $87,000 he'd transferred from our joint savings account over the past 6 months. Money I'd watched disappear in increments small enough that he thought I wouldn't notice. But I noticed everything. You took $87,000 of our money and spent it on your mistress, I said, my voice still calm but with an edge sharp enough to cut. The hotel rooms, the jewelry, the first-class tickets to Vancouver, the down payment on the condo you bought for her in Bellevue. Yes, David, I know about the condo. How did you, he started, but I held up my hand. Page 2 states that you will repay that full amount to me within 90 days of the divorce being finalized. Plus interest. 8% annually, calculated from the date of each withdrawal. I don't have that kind of liquid cash right now, he protested weakly. Then I suggest you sell the condo in Bellevue, I replied. Or explain to your partners at Morrison, Wells & Associates why you need to liquidate part of your partnership stake. Your choice. His face had gone from crimson to ashen gray. Claire, please, we can work this out. We don't need to. Oh, David, I'm not done, I said, and I could hear the ice in my own voice. Keep reading. His hand shook as he turned to page 3. This was my favorite page. The page that had taken 2 months of careful investigation and one very expensive private investigator to compile. Page 3 detailed something David thought he'd been so clever about. The business development fund he'd been skimming from the firm. Not a lot, just enough that it would fly under the radar. $2,000 here, $3,500 there, always documented as client entertainment or prospecting expenses. Except David wasn't entertaining clients. He was entertaining Melissa. And I had the receipts, literally, thanks to the PI who'd befriended the hostess at Canlis and the concierge at the Peninsula. You embezzled nearly $45,000 from your own firm, I said quietly. To fund your affair. That's not just unethical, David. That's criminal. And it's definitely a violation of your partnership agreement. You can't prove any of this, he said, but his voice was desperate now, not defiant. I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened my email. I have the credit card statements, the hotel receipts, the expense reports you filed with the firm, and the corresponding dates and amounts that don't match. I have testimony from restaurant staff who remember you and your blonde companion. I have photos. I have everything. What do you want? He whispered. I want exactly what's in this agreement, I said. You repay the money you stole from us. You resign from the firm quietly, citing personal reasons, so they don't investigate and discover what you've done. 'Cause David, if they investigate, you don't just lose your partnership. You lose your license. You lose everything. You're blackmailing me. I'm protecting what's mine, I corrected. There's a difference. You broke our marriage vows. You stole from our savings. You committed fraud against your own firm. I'm simply asking you to make it right before walking away. The rain had intensified, drumming against the windows like 1,000 angry fingers. David sat there, the papers trembling in his hands, his carefully constructed life crumbling around him. And if I don't sign, he asked, though we both knew he had no leverage. Then I file for divorce citing adultery and financial malfeasance. I submit all my evidence to the court. Becomes public record. Your firm will definitely investigate. The Washington State Bar Association will definitely investigate. Melissa will definitely find out she was sleeping with a man who embezzled to afford her. And you will definitely lose everything, including your reputation and your career. I leaned forward. Or you sign, you pay me back what you stole, you resign gracefully, and you get to walk away with some dignity and your law license intact. You can blame the divorce, take some time off, then rebuild somewhere else. Maybe a smaller firm, maybe a different city. But you get to rebuild. Choice was clear. Choice had always been clear. I'd made sure of that. David's hand shook as he picked up the pen again. When did you become so cold? I'm not cold, I said. I'm just done being warm to someone who left me freezing. He signed page 2. Then page 3. Then page 4, which detailed the timeline for repayment, the resignation letter he delivered to his firm, and the non-disparagement clause that would cost him $250,000 if he violated it. When he finished, I took the papers, checked each signature, and placed them back in the folder. "You can stay tonight if you need to pack properly," I said, standing. "But I'd prefer if you were gone by tomorrow evening. The locks will be changed on Saturday." "Claire," he said, and for the first time I heard actual remorse in his voice. "I'm sorry. I really am. I never meant to hurt you like this." I looked at him, this man I'd loved for 10 years, married for 8, and I felt nothing but a distant echo of what used to be. "You're not sorry you hurt me, David. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference." I walked to my bedroom, our bedroom, and closed the door. I heard him sit there for another 20 minutes before finally leaving. The front door clicked shut, and the penthouse fell silent except for the rain. I didn't cry. I'd done all my crying 3 months ago when I'd first discovered the messages on his iPad, the one we shared, the one he'd forgotten to log out of. I cried for 3 days straight. Then I'd stopped crying and started planning. My mother always said, "A smart woman doesn't get mad. She gets even." But she was wrong. A smart woman doesn't get even. She gets ahead. I opened my laptop and sent an email to my divorce attorney, Margaret Chen, the best in Seattle and the one who'd helped me prepare every page of that agreement. He signed, proceeding as planned. Her response came 2 minutes later. "Excellent. I'll file in the morning. Congratulations on your freedom, Claire." Freedom. The word felt strange. I'd been married since I was 24, thinking I'd found my forever person. But forever turned out to have an expiration date, and that date was today. I walked to the window and looked out at the Seattle skyline, the Space Needle lit up in the distance, the city alive and glittering despite the rain. Somewhere out there, David was probably calling Melissa, maybe confessing everything, maybe lying to her too. I didn't care anymore. I picked up my phone and called my best friend, Sophia. "He signed," I said when she answered. "All of it." She'd been with me through everything, helping me gather evidence, holding me when I cried, reminding me that I deserved better. Every page. Even the parts that made him physically sick to read. "Good," Sophia said fiercely. "That bastard deserves worse. When do you want to celebrate?" "Tomorrow night, after he moves out. Let's go to that new wine bar on Capitol Hill." "I'll be there." "And Claire?" "Yeah, I'm proud of you." A lot of women would have just accepted the 50-50 split and walked away. But you fought for what was yours. After we hung up, I poured myself another glass of wine and sat back down on the sofa. The rain was finally starting to ease, and through the clearing clouds I could see a few stars. My phone buzzed. Text from David. "I really am sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed my response. "I already have forgiven you. Forgiveness is for me, not for you. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'll forget. And it doesn't mean there aren't consequences. Good luck, David." I blocked his number. I didn't need to hear from him again unless it was through our lawyers. That night, I slept better than I had in months. No more wondering where he was. No more pretending I didn't smell another woman's perfume on his shirts. No more lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was going crazy or if my suspicions were real. I was free. And freedom, I was discovering, felt a lot like peace. The next morning, Friday, I woke up early and went for a run along the waterfront. The rain had stopped, leaving everything clean and fresh. The air smelled like salt water and possibility. When I got back to the penthouse around 8 a.m., David was there, packing his things. He looked like he hadn't slept at all, his eyes bloodshot, his hair uncombed. "I'll be out by noon," he said without looking at me. "Take your time," I replied, heading to the shower. "I have to go to the office anyway." Morrison and Young Advertising, where I'd worked my way up from junior copywriter to creative director over the past 8 years, my assistant greeted me with coffee and a knowing smile. "You look different today," Nina said. "Lighter." "I filed for divorce yesterday," I told her. No point in hiding it. Or rather, my husband asked for one and I had the papers ready. Nina's eyes went wide. Oh my God, Claire. Are you okay? I'm better than okay, I said honestly. I'm liberated. The word felt right. Liberated. Like I'd been in prison and didn't even realize it until the door opened. My phone rang. Margaret Chen. Claire, we have a problem, she said, her usually calm voice slightly elevated. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? David's trying to contest page 2. He filed an emergency motion this morning claiming financial duress and that you coerced him into signing under threat. I felt anger flare hot in my chest. He signed willingly. We have no witnesses, but we have the signed document. I know. And his motion is weak. But it means this might not be as clean as we hoped. He's hired Richard Thornton. Richard Thornton was a shark, known for taking impossible cases and somehow winning them through sheer aggression and media manipulation. So what do? I asked. We go to war, Margaret said simply. And we make sure we win. Do you still have all the evidence I told you to keep? Every single piece. Backed up in 3 different places. Good. Forward everything to me again. Every receipt, every photo, every text message. If David wants to play hardball, we'll show him what hardball really looks like. After I hung up, I sat at my desk, staring at my computer screen. I'd thought it was over. I'd thought he'd just pay the money, resign quietly, and we'd both move on. But of course he wasn't going to make it easy. Men like David never did. They had to fight, had to try to win, even when they were clearly in the wrong. Fine. If he wanted a fight, I'd give him one. I spent my lunch break forwarding every piece of evidence to Margaret. The expense reports, the hotel receipts, credit card statements showing charges at jewelry stores I'd never received gifts from, the photos of David and Melissa at Canlis, at the Peninsula, walking hand in hand through Pike Place Market. The most damning piece was something I'd been saving. A recording. 3 weeks ago, I'd installed a voice-activated recorder in David's car. Illegal? Maybe. Admissible in court? Probably not. But useful for negotiation? Absolutely. On that recording, David and Melissa were discussing me. Discussing how much longer he'd have to put up with me. How once the divorce was final, they'd move into the Bellevue condo together. How he'd make sure I got as little as possible in the settlement. She's so stupid, Melissa's voice said on the recording. She has no idea. She probably thinks you're working late every night. She's not stupid, David replied. She's naive. There's a difference. She trusts me completely. That's what makes this so easy. Their laughter on that recording had burned into my memory. That was the moment I'd stopped feeling sad and started feeling angry. That was the moment I decided to make sure he paid for every lie, every betrayal, every moment he'd made me feel like I was crazy for being suspicious. I sent the recording to Margaret with a note, for negotiation purposes only. Let's remind him what's at stake. Her response came immediately. You beautiful, devious genius. This changes everything. That evening, David was gone from the penthouse. He'd taken his clothes, his books, his golf clubs. He'd left his wedding ring on the kitchen counter, a small circle of gold that represented a promise he'd broken. I picked it up and put it in a drawer. Someday I'd sell it. Or maybe I'd melt it down and make something new. A phoenix rising from the ashes of a dead marriage. Sophia arrived at 7 with a bottle of champagne and Thai takeout. To your freedom, she toasted, and we clinked glasses on my sofa, the same sofa where just 24 hours earlier my marriage had officially ended. He's fighting it, I told her between bites of pad thai. Hired Richard Thornton and everything. Sophia's eyes narrowed. That slimy bastard. What's his angle? Claiming I coerced David into signing under duress. That's rich, coming from a guy who embezzled from his own firm to fund his affair. Margaret has a plan, and I have ammunition he doesn't know I have. I told her about the recording. Sophia's smile turned predatory. Oh, Claire. He has no idea who he's messing with, does he? He thinks I'm the same naive girl he married 8 years ago, I said. He doesn't realize that girl died about 3 months ago. The woman sitting here now? She's done playing nice. We spent the rest of the evening planning my post-divorce life. Sophia suggested I update my wardrobe, maybe try online dating when I was ready, definitely take that trip to Italy I'd always wanted to take but David had always said was too expensive. You have your own money now, Sophia pointed out. Well, your own money and the $87,000 he's going to pay you back. Go to Italy. Pasta. Drink wine. Flirt with Italian men. Live your life. The idea was intoxicating. For 8 years I'd been half of a couple. David's wife. Now I got to be just Claire. Fully, completely, unapologetically myself. On Monday morning, Margaret called with an update. I sent Thornton the transcript of the recording. Not the actual recording, just the transcript. Enough to let them know we have it. And David called me directly, which is a huge no-no. He's panicking. He wants to talk settlement. What kind of settlement? He'll agree to everything in the original agreement. All of it. Page 2, page 3, page 4. And no more fighting. But he wants the recording destroyed and a guarantee we'll never use it or disclose its contents. I thought about it. The recording was powerful, but its power was in its existence, not its use. If I agreed to destroy it and keep its contents confidential, David would sign everything and I'd get exactly what I wanted. Tell him I'll agree on 3 conditions, I said. 1, he pays me the $87,000 plus interest within 60 days, not 90. 2, he resigns from his firm by the end of this month. 3, the non-disparagement clause includes Melissa. If either of them talk about me publicly or to mutual friends, the penalty is $500,000 and I can disclose everything I know. Margaret was quiet for a moment. That 3rd condition is harsh. I love it. I don't want them comparing notes and trying to make me the villain in their story. I want them to have no choice but to stay silent. Done. I'll draw up the modified agreement today. By Wednesday, David had signed the new agreement. By Thursday, I'd received the first installment of the repayment $43,500, exactly half. The second half would come in 30 days. By Friday, exactly 1 week after David had asked for a divorce, our marriage was legally dissolved. It had been the fastest uncontested divorce Margaret had ever processed. Usually these things take months, she said as we celebrated with lunch at Dahlia Lounge. But when both parties want out and the terms are clear, the courts move fast. I'm officially single, I said, the words still feeling strange in my mouth. You're officially free, Margaret corrected. There's a difference. How does it feel? I thought about it as I sipped my wine. It feels like waking up after a really long, bad dream. Like I've been holding my breath for months and can finally exhale. What are you going to do now? I'm going to Italy, I said decisively. 2 weeks in Tuscany. Just me, wine, and absolutely no thoughts about David or Melissa or any of it. Good for you, Margaret raised her glass. You've earned it. That night I booked the trip. A small villa outside of Florence, a rental car, no itinerary. Just freedom and possibility. The closure I'd been looking for didn't come from the divorce papers or the money or David's resignation from his firm, which had been announced that morning with a vague press release about pursuing other opportunities. The closure came from realizing I didn't need closure. I just needed to move forward. 3 months later, I was sitting at a cafe in Florence, drinking an espresso and watching the sun set over the Arno River. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. I hear you're in Italy. I hope you're happy. You deserved better than what I gave you. D. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I deleted it without responding. He didn't deserve a response. He didn't deserve my forgiveness or my anger or my acknowledgement. He deserved nothing but the silence he'd earned. I took a photo of the sunset and posted it to Instagram with a simple caption, La Dolce Vita. Within minutes, Sophia had liked it and commented, You look free. I love it. And I was free. Free from the marriage that had become a prison. Free from the man who'd betrayed me. Free from the naive girl who'd thought love meant trusting blindly. I'd learned that trust isn't given freely. It's earned. And once it's broken, it can never be fully repaired. Some things, once shattered, can't be glued back together. They can only be swept up and thrown away so you can make room for something new. 6 months after the divorce, I was thriving. My career had taken off after I'd stopped pouring all my emotional energy into a dying marriage. I'd won 2 major industry awards for campaigns I'd created. The agency had promoted me to executive creative director. I'd also started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and dinners with interesting men who didn't lie about where they were or who they were with. Men who called when they said they'd call. Men who treated me like I was valuable. It was revolutionary. One evening, I ran into David at a networking event. He looked older, worn down. He'd gained weight and lost the confident swagger he used to have. Claire, he said, approaching me cautiously. You look amazing. Thank you, I replied coolly. Can we talk? Just for a minute. I considered saying no, but curiosity got the better of me. We stepped out onto the venue's terrace, away from the crowd. I wanted you to know that Melissa and I aren't together anymore, he said. Okay. She left me when she found out about the money. Said she didn't sign up to be with someone who is broke and unemployed. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and surprisingly, I meant it a little. Not sorry for him, but sorry that he'd learned this lesson the hard way. I know I don't deserve your sympathy, he continued. I know I destroyed what we had. I just wanted you to know that I realize now what I lost. You were the best thing in my life, and I threw it away for someone who never actually cared about me. I looked at him, this man I'd once loved more than anything, and felt nothing but a distant pity. David, I hope you find happiness someday. I really do. But you're not going to find it by looking backward. What we had is gone. It's been gone for a long time. Do you think... He started, then stopped. Do you think if I'd been honest with you from the beginning, if I'd told you I was unhappy, we could have fixed it? I thought about it honestly. Maybe. Or maybe we'd grown apart and we're just too stubborn to admit it. But the lying, the cheating, the stealing that's on you. You didn't just break my heart, David. You broke my trust. And trust is a lot harder to fix than a marriage. He nodded, looking down at his shoes. I'm working at a small firm in Tacoma now. Making a fraction of what I used to make. Living in a studio apartment. It's humbling. Humble is good, I said. Humble means you're learning. Are you seeing anyone? He asked, and I could hear the hope in his voice, hope that maybe I was still available, still waiting. I'm seeing several people, I said with a smile. Casually. I'm not looking for anything serious right now. I'm just enjoying my life. The hope in his eyes died. You seem happy. I am happy. Genuinely, honestly happy. For the first time in years. We stood there in awkward silence for a moment before I said, I should get back inside. Good luck, David. I mean that. As I walked away, I heard him say quietly, I'm sorry I couldn't be the man you deserved. I didn't turn around. There was nothing left to say. A year after the divorce, I was in a completely different place. I'd met someone, not at a bar or on a dating app, but at a charity auction I'd helped organize for the ad agency. His name was Michael, and he was a photographer who specialized in wildlife and landscapes. He donated a private photography session to the auction and I'd won the bid. Our first date was a photo walk through the Olympic National Forest. He taught me about light and composition. I taught him about storytelling and emotion. We talked for hours about art and life and what it meant to be truly seen by another person. "What happened with your ex?" he asked as we sat on a fallen log, eating sandwiches and watching the sunlight filter through the trees. I told him the whole story. The affair, the money, the agreement, the recording, the fast divorce, the freedom that followed. "Wow," he said when I finished. "That's some story. Are you over it?" "I'm over him," I said. "The betrayal still stings sometimes, but I don't miss what we had. I think I miss the idea of what I thought we had. But that was never real." "Do you trust again?" he asked. "After all that?" I thought about it. "I'm learning to. Slowly. With boundaries. I don't think I'll ever be that naive again. But I also don't want to be so guarded that I miss out on something real because I'm afraid of being hurt." Michael smiled. "That seems healthy." "I'm working on it," I said. "Therapy helps. So does time. And so does meeting people who show up consistently and honestly." He took my hand. "I'm pretty good at showing up." And he was. For the next 6 months, Michael showed up for every date, every promised call, every plan we made. When he said he'd be somewhere, he was there. When he said he'd do something, he did it. It was revolutionary after years of David's broken promises and lies. 2 years after the divorce, I was at brunch with Sophia, celebrating her engagement to her longtime boyfriend, Marcus. "I want you to be my maid of honor," she said, showing me her ring. "Obviously," I replied, hugging her. "I'm so happy for you." "You and Michael seem serious," she observed. "Any thoughts about marriage?" I shook my head. "Not right now. Maybe someday. But I'm in no rush. I've learned that I'm perfectly fine on my own. If I get married again, it won't be because I need someone to complete me. It'll be because I want to share my complete life with someone else." "That's beautiful," Sophia said. "And mature. And honestly, way healthier than the first time around." "I was 24 the first time," I said. "I thought love meant losing yourself in someone else. I know better now. Love means finding someone who celebrates who you are, not someone who tries to change you or control you or lie to you." My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Dinner tonight? I want to show you something." I smiled and texted back. "Pick me up at 7. "That smile," Sophia said, grinning. "That's the smile of a woman who knows her worth." "Damn right," I agreed. That evening, Michael took me to the waterfront, to the exact spot where I'd run the morning after David signed the divorce papers. The spot where I'd felt freedom for the first time in months. "Why here?" I asked as we walked along the pier, the sunset painting the sky orange and pink. "Because you told me this is where you felt reborn," Michael said. "And I wanted to ask you something important in a place that matters to you." My heart started racing. Was he about to propose? Was I ready for that? But Michael didn't get down on one knee. Instead, he pulled out a portfolio and opened it to a collection of photographs. They were all of me taken over the past 6 months. Me laughing at a restaurant. Me concentrating on my laptop at a coffee shop. Me dancing at Sophia's engagement party. Me sleeping peacefully in his bed. "I want to do a show," he said. "An exhibition called Recovery. About the beauty of healing and moving forward. About strength and resilience. And I want you to be the subject. If you're comfortable with that." I looked at the photos, seeing myself through his eyes. In every image, I looked strong, happy, alive. I looked like someone who had survived something terrible and come out better for it. "These are beautiful," I whispered. "You're beautiful," he corrected. "And brave. And I think your story could inspire other people who are going through their own recoveries from whatever betrayals they faced." "Can I think about it?" I asked. Of course. No pressure. I just wanted you to see what I see when I look at you. What he saw was what I'd become. Not a victim. Not a bitter ex-wife. But a woman who had faced betrayal and chosen herself. A woman who had taken control of her own narrative. Yes, I said suddenly. Let's do the show. Let's show people that recovery is possible. That you can trust again, love again, thrive again. Michael kissed me, and in that moment, standing at the waterfront where I'd chosen freedom over bitterness, I realized something important. David asking for that divorce was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because the divorce itself was good, but because his betrayal had forced me to wake up, take control, and build a life on my own terms. He'd thought he was leaving me. But really, I'd been the one who left. I'd left behind the naive girl who trusted blindly. I'd left behind the woman who made herself smaller to fit someone else's expectations. I'd left behind the person who thought being in a relationship meant giving up pieces of yourself. The woman standing on this pier was whole. Complete. And if someone wanted to be part of her life, they'd have to respect that wholeness, not try to diminish it. 3 years after the divorce, Michael's exhibition opened at a gallery in Pioneer Square. The photos were stunning not just because of his skill but because of what they represented. Healing. Strength. The beauty of moving forward. The opening, dozens of people came up to me and shared their own stories. Women who'd been through divorces, betrayals, financial abuse. Men who'd been gaslit and manipulated. People of all kinds who'd hit rock bottom and clawed their way back up. How did you do it? One woman asked me, tears in her eyes. How did you stay so strong? I didn't, I admitted. I broke down completely. I cried for weeks. But then I realized crying wasn't going to change anything. Action would. So I took action. I documented everything. I got a lawyer. I made a plan. And I executed it. Weren't you scared? Terrified, I said honestly. But I was more scared of staying in a marriage with someone who didn't love me, who lied to me, who stole from me. That fear was bigger than my fear of being alone. Another woman, older, maybe in her 60s, approached. I've been in a loveless marriage for 30 years. Seeing your photos, hearing your story, it makes me think maybe it's not too late for me. I took her hand. It's never too late. Never. You deserve happiness and respect and honesty, no matter your age. She hugged me, crying into my shoulder. Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to share this. That night, after the gallery closed and it was just Michael and me, we sat on the floor surrounded by the photos of my journey. Are you okay? He asked. Today was intense. I'm more than okay, I said. I feel like everything I went through had a purpose. If my story can help even one person find the courage to leave a bad situation, then it was all worth it. What about David? Michael asked. Do you ever wonder what he's doing now? Not really, I said honestly. I heard through mutual friends that he's doing okay. Working his way back up. Dating someone new. I hope he's learned from his mistakes. I hope he's a better person now. That's generous of you. I shook my head. It's not generous. It's self-preservation. Holding on to anger and bitterness only hurts me. He's not worth my energy. My energy goes to building my life, loving the people who deserve it, and being happy. And are you? Happy. I looked around at the exhibition, at the physical manifestation of my journey from heartbreak to healing. I thought about my career, thriving more than ever. My friendships, deeper and more authentic. My relationship with Michael, built on honesty and respect. Yes, I said. I'm happy. Really, truly happy. Not the fake happy I pretended to be during my marriage, but genuinely content with my life. 5 years after the divorce, I got a letter. It was forwarded through Margaret Chen, my divorce attorney, as per the agreement that David and I would have no direct contact unless absolutely necessary. The letter was from David. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. Dear Claire, I know I have no right to contact you, even through this formal channel. But I saw the exhibition that was held in your honor and I wanted to say something. I'm proud of you. I know that might sound strange coming from me, the person who tried to destroy you. But I am. You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into something beautiful and inspiring. I want you to know that I've been in therapy for the past 3 years. I'm working on understanding why I did what I did, why I sabotaged the best relationship I ever had, why I chose temporary pleasure over lasting love. I'm not writing this to ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it and I'm not entitled to it. I'm writing because I want you to know that watching you thrive has taught me more about strength and grace than anything else in my life. You were right that day at the networking event. Trust, once broken, can't be repaired. But I hope I've learned enough that I won't break anyone else's trust the way I broke yours. I'm dating someone now. She's kind and honest, and I'm trying every day to be the man she deserves. I'm trying to be the man you deserved, but I was too selfish and immature to be. I don't expect a response to this letter. I just wanted you to know that your decision to make me accountable, to refuse to be a victim, changed my life too. Just not in the way I expected. I hope you're happy, Claire. You deserve all the happiness in the world. With respect and regret, David. I read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. He was right. He didn't deserve a response. But I appreciated the acknowledgement, the accountability, the growth. That night, I told Michael about the letter. How do you feel? He asked. Neutral, I said. I'm glad he's getting help. I'm glad he's trying to be better. But it doesn't change anything for me. My healing didn't require his apology or his growth. It only required my own commitment to myself. That's profound, Michael said. It's true, I replied. We spend so much time waiting for the people who hurt us to apologize, to change, to acknowledge what they did. But healing can't depend on that. It has to come from within. 6 years after the divorce, Michael proposed. Not with a grand gesture or a public display, but quietly in our living room as we were making dinner together. Marry me, he said, chopping vegetables. I looked up from the pasta I was stirring. What? Marry me. Not because I think we need a piece of paper to validate what we have, but because I want to publicly promise to keep showing up for you every day for the rest of our lives. Because I want to legally bind myself to you so that if anything ever happens, you're protected. Because I love you and I want the world to know it. I turned off the stove and walked over to him. That's the most unromantic romantic proposal I've ever heard. Is that a yes? That's a yes, I said, kissing him. But small wedding. Just close friends and family. Nothing extravagant. Whatever you want, he said. As long as you're there, I don't care if we get married in a courthouse or a castle. We got married in a small ceremony at the Seattle Japanese Garden, surrounded by 40 people who loved us. Sophia was my maid of honor. My parents cried. Michael's family welcomed me with open arms. I wore a simple white dress, not a princess gown. I wrote my own vows, not about forever or till death do us part, but about choosing each other every day, about being honest even when it's hard, about maintaining our individual identities while building a life together. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," and Michael kissed me, I felt something I'd never felt during my first wedding. Peace. Pure, uncomplicated peace. The reception, Sophia toasted us. To Claire and Michael. May your marriage be everything your first marriage wasn't, Claire. May it be built on honesty, respect, and genuine love. Everyone laughed, including me. 'Cause it was true. This marriage was everything my first marriage wasn't. That night, as Michael and I slow danced to our wedding song, he whispered in my ear, "No regrets?" About marrying you? None. About everything you went through to get here? I thought about it. About the pain of discovering David's betrayal. About the months of secretly gathering evidence. About the moment I handed him those papers. About the fight that followed. About the slow process of rebuilding my life from scratch. No regrets, I said finally. All of it led me here. To you. To this life. To this version of myself that I actually like. And I meant it. Every word. 'Cause the truth is, when my husband asked me for a divorce and I agreed instantly, I wasn't just agreeing to end a marriage. I was agreeing to start a new life. A life where I was the author of my own story, not a supporting character in someone else's. Page 2 of that divorce agreement wasn't about money or justice or revenge. It was about reclaiming my power. It was about saying, you don't get to betray me and walk away unscathed. You don't get to rewrite history and make me the villain. You don't get to take from me without consequences. And in demanding those consequences, I'd learned the most important lesson of my life. I was strong enough to stand alone. And because I was strong enough to stand alone, I could choose to stand beside someone not out of need, but out of genuine want. 7 years after that rainy Thursday night when David asked for a divorce, I was sitting in my home office, now in a house Michael and I had bought together, working on a memoir. The working title was Page 2, How Refusing to be a Victim Saved My Life. My agent thought it would sell well. Everyone loves a good comeback story, she'd said. Especially one with such a satisfying dose of justice. But I wasn't writing it for sales or justice. I was writing it for the women like that older woman at the gallery, the ones who'd spent decades in loveless marriages, the ones who thought it was too late to start over. It's never too late. That was the message. It's never too late to choose yourself, to demand respect, to build a life you're proud of. As I typed, Michael brought me tea, kissed the top of my head, and left without a word. No hovering, no interrupting, no demanding my attention. Just a quiet acknowledgement that I was working and he supported that. These small moments, these tiny demonstrations of respect and consideration were what real love looked like. Not grand gestures or expensive gifts, but consistent daily acts of care and support. My phone rang. It was Sophia. "Guess what?" she said, excitement bubbling in her voice. "What?" "I'm pregnant. 3 months. We're having a baby." I squealed with joy. "Oh my God, Sophia. That's amazing. You're going to be an aunt," she said. "Well, honorary aunt. And I want you to be the godmother." "Of course. Absolutely. I'm so happy for you." After we hung up, I sat at my desk, smiling. Life had a funny way of working out. All those years ago, when David asked for a divorce, I thought my world was ending. I thought I'd never be happy again, never trust again, never love again. But here I was, happily remarried to a man who respected me, successful in my career, writing a book that might help others, about to be a godmother to my best friend's baby. The divorce hadn't been the end. It had been the beginning. I returned to my manuscript and wrote, "When my husband handed me divorce papers, he thought he was taking everything from me. He didn't realize he was actually giving me the greatest gift, the opportunity to discover who I was without him, the opportunity to build a life on my own terms, the opportunity to find real love, the kind that doesn't require me to diminish myself." Page 2 wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability and self-respect. It was about refusing to be a victim and choosing to be a survivor instead. It was about understanding that the end of one chapter doesn't mean the end of the book. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a much better story. So to everyone who's facing betrayal, who's standing at a crossroads, who's wondering if they have the strength to walk away from something familiar but toxic, you do. You have more strength than you know. And on the other side of that fear, on the other side of that pain, is a version of yourself you never knew existed. A stronger, wiser, happier version. Trust me. I've been there. And if I can do it, so can you. I saved the document and closed my laptop. Through my window, I could see Michael in the garden planting roses. He waved when he saw me watching, and I waved back. This was my life now. Simple, honest good. No secrets, no lies, no wondering where my partner was or who they were with. Just peace and mutual respect and genuine love. And it all started with a single word on a rainy Thursday night. Okay. When David asked for a divorce, I could have begged. I could have cried and pleaded and tried to change his mind. I could have made myself smaller, promised to be better, agreed to couples therapy. But instead, I said okay. And in that single word, I chose myself. I chose my dignity. I chose my future. That's the power of knowing your worth. When someone tries to diminish you, you don't argue. You don't fight to convince them you're valuable. You simply walk away and find people who already know your value. David learned that lesson the hard way. By the time he realized what he'd lost, I was already gone. Not just physically, but emotionally. I'd closed that chapter, locked it away, and started writing a new one. And this new chapter? It's pretty damn good. As the sun set over our garden, Michael came inside, dirt on his hands and a smile on his face. "Come see the roses I planted," he said, taking my hand. I followed him outside, and there, in neat rows, were dozens of rose bushes, each one labeled with a small marker. "I got one for each month of our relationship," he explained. "Starting from the day we met. I thought we could watch them grow together, like our love. It was corny and sentimental and absolutely perfect." I hugged him, breathing in the scent of earth and flowers and possibility. "I love you," I said. "I love you too," he replied. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for trusting me after everything you've been through. Thank you for being trustworthy," I said. "Thank you for showing up." We stood there in the fading light, surrounded by roses that would bloom in the spring, symbols of growth and beauty emerging from careful tending. And I thought about page 2 of that divorce agreement, the page that changed everything. The page that set me free. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is someone handing you divorce papers. Not because divorce itself is good, but because it forces you to choose. Will you be a victim or a victor? I chose victor. And I've never looked back. The end.